Shakespeare takes us off the deep end. Please welcome Mike Cogan, who operates Jacksonville Kayak Fishing. He mentioned the website earlier, Jax, J-A-X, kayakfishing.com. And this is your craft, brought down here from Jacksonville.
Yep, this is the way I rig it, guys.
Yeah, this is the way that you got it rigged out. Let's start. We'll move some stuff out of the way here and start in the front. You can kind of walk us from the front to the back. This already is my favorite part of the entire kayak.
Why? Because it's the front?
Because it's got lots of storage. Look at this.
Yeah, huge
So what
amount.
goes up in here? Yeah.
Well, you know, kayaks are like cars, and everyone's got a different preference, what they like and what fits them. And what fits me is something that's stable, dry, and lots of storage. You know, you got a lot of stuff you want to take out there, and you don't want to be out there and find yourself wanting. So inside that front hatch, I've got a cooler that I use for fish. It usually starts the day full of drinks and sandwiches, and by the end of the day, on a good day, it's filled with fish.
Yep. At least you hope so, right?
Yep, and that hatch is kind of interestingly shaped. It's called a gator hatch.
Right.
And as you tuck it back
You
down...
can't expect Whit to do anything.
I got
like
one
that.
hand. Give me a
well,
break.
little fella can sit right there facing you. So,
Yeah.
you
So
can
that
take
would be
your
my
kids
seat.
out.
That would be my seat, huh?
Right here.
Oh,
There's
I
Vicky's
didn't
seat
start
right there.
that. I didn't
But you
start
got to
that.
have a little booty to go in there with.
We got a rod holder right here.
Yeah, with a GPS on there.
GPS attached to it.
And that thing moves all around so you can, you know, keep it out of the way when you're casting.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And here we've got a stakeout pole. This is the preferred way of anchoring in shallow water for kayakers. You can either put it through a scupper hole, as you've done there, and depending on the tide, you can work it in a front scupper hole or a rear scupper hole. And you can also put it in the mud, you know, to the side of the kayak and connect to it with kind of an anchoring trolley system.
Right.
Okay.
Obviously, the two most important parts of any kayak is your motor. Got to have a nice... This is the motor. You are the motor, and this is the propeller, I guess.
Wow.
So, you know, nice, light paddle. Definitely you don't want to skimp on the paddle and the seat. You know, you're going to be sitting in this thing for a while.
Yep.
So you want to have a comfortable ride. So a nice high back seat with some support for your
Now,
back.
what's this for, Mike?
Well, that's a paddle leash, Rick. And, you know, like the old proverb says, you don't want to be up a creek without a paddle.
Right.
We're up a lot of creeks. And, you know, it's always a good thing to actually have a spare paddle or a breakdown paddle in case of emergency.
I might
because
need one of those
they
just
do
for my
break.
personal self.
All right.
Now, in here?
I've got my tackle in here. This yak has a lot of interior space. There you go.
You hear that? Yak.
I got it.
That's
I'm
not an
catching on.
animal. That's not an animal.
It's a yak.
I'm catching on.
And, you know, we catch photo and release a lot in kayaks because we obviously, you know, we can't have weigh-ins for our tournaments and
Right.
things like that. So picture taking is a big thing, and self-picture taking is a big thing.
Yeah.
And that camera's got a nice little mount
It's
on it.
definitely important to me, self-picture taking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no
you
kidding.
get all those
Shoot
nice,
it off.
those
You
nice
mount it up
styling
here.
and profiling
There you go.
pictures.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
So, and we've got the rest of my
Tackle
tackle
boxes.
in there.
And I'll tell you, the storage down here is unbelievable. I mean, you've got room for several tackle boxes. It goes all the way back to the back of the boat, right? You can move them
Yep.
up underneath your feet. Look at all the stuff you can put inside this kayak. It's unbelievable.
All right, now, what's this, Mike?
Well, this is a bait well. That's what you're going to use if you're offshore and you want to take some serious bait with you. You know, pogies or something that needs a serious
Pinfish.
aeration system, pinfish. So you've
Suck
got
the water in this way?
You've got a pump that pulls the water in through the scupper hole. We've got an exhaust that comes out the back here. And, of course, this whole unit's removable, and you have another access hatch to the interior of the kayak.
So you could put other storage, cooler, whatever you want.
Sure, sure.
All right,
And you can also put all your rods inside the yak. You know, if you're fishing offshore, it's not a question of if you're going to fall out of the yak with your equipment. It's a question of when. And so putting things inside will give you that peace of mind you want.
And then, obviously, rod holders. But this is in case you're using shrimp or something that you don't have
live
to...
shrimp, mud minnows, something that doesn't need that much water circulation.
Battery operated, measuring stick, the milk crate. Now, the milk crate is like our tower. That's y'all's deal right there.
Yeah, well, you know, before they made fishing kayaks, everyone took recreational kayaks and did the best they could, attaching rod holders, and the milk crate was one of the key pieces where you put your tackle boxes, your boga grips,
Right.
you know, PFD, whatever. You didn't have hatches, so that was your hatch.
Right.
And it's still something because it's a very versatile piece. You know, you can use it for whatever strikes your
Right.
fancy or whatever works for your style of kayak.
Before we get to your report as part of the Northeast report, give me an idea, without outfitting it, without the rods, the reels, and the equipment, to purchase a kayak like this, give me a ballpark figure of what I'm spending.
You can get into this for the new kayak from $500 to whatever you want to spend. This unit you're looking at right here is about $900 to $1,000 with all the rod holders. then you're going to, you have to buy your seat, your paddle.
Right.
You've got your tackle and the rest of the pieces here.
All right, we're going to stay right here in Mike's region as we move to the Northeast Report. Of course, it's the Georgia state line all the way to Ormond Beach on the Atlantic side. We're talking about Greater Jacksonville, plus Palm Coast, Flagler Beach, and south to Ormond by the Sea. Now, Scott Guthrie covers this for us from Jacksonville, but before we get to Scott, Mike is going to stay right here to give a kayak and canoe report for the Northeast.
Yeah, the bite's really been on in Northeast Florida. We've been catching lots of good redfish everywhere in the intercoastal waterway and the finger creeks running from Matanzas all the way up to the state line. The flounder bite has been coming on pretty strong right now. The flounder are looking for mullet, they're looking for mud minnows, they're looking for shrimp on a jig, or a tube bait on a stand-up jig is working well. And the specific areas that we've been going into in the kayak are the creeks, the creek mouths, the cups, all the typical ambush points where you're going to find these fish feeding on the outgoing tide, the end of the outgoing cycle, particularly the dead slack and the first of the incoming. So even though the weather's been really hot and now we're looking at a little northeast blow this week and things are cooling off a little bit, the bite has been on, and those are the species that I would be after.
Good job, Mike. Well, we're going to turn it over to Scotty Witt.
Yeah, let's get Scott Guthrie in here for the rest of that.